What a beautiful walk.
Give me that box, Lily. You shouldn't be carrying that.
I'm fine, I don't even think about it.
Well, I do.
Well, you don't need to ask any more, George. Look, we're here.
Right, good. Right,
Nobody told me how beautiful it would be.
let's get inside.
I just want to take a moment before we go in. This is the start of something. This town has been speaking to me ever since we arrived.
My hands are aching, Lily. Come on.
It has stories to tell, and I want to hear them. I want to be part of them, and I want to meet the people of Southport.
Well, we need the sand grounders to know where we are first, so come on, let's get inside.
What a fine establishment. There is nothing modest about it at all. And we've even got a bandstand outside. And it is the finest arcade I ever did see.
Seem finer than Liverpool.
And look at our sign, George. Bednall's Fancy Stationer. We've even got a bell, so we can hear each customer as they arrive and depart.
That'll be inheritance, I'm sure.
It must have been quite a handsome cafe before we arrived. These are used for champagne.
Where did they come from? They look like very fine glass.
I think they were meant to be left for us, so we can celebrate the opening of our shop in style. Ah, Mrs. Dodd, how pleasant to see you.
Mrs. Atkinson, are you well? You're looking rather pale. Are you taking ill again?
No, I am quite well. Now that we live permanently by the sea, I am much improved.
Salut Popoli, the health of the people. It is on Southport's coat of arms and is the entire reason you feel well.
You are quite right. Have you had a good evening?
I have indeed. The opening of the Atkinson Art Gallery and Library may be just the thing to tempt royalty to Southport.
Oh, how very kind of you to say. I do wish I could paint.
I find it better to look from afar and don't try unless you have a talent. The pictures on display today have been most agreeable, but that is not always the case.
What a gift it must be.
You must visit the baths, my dear. The doctors say it can be a cure for all kinds of aches and pains. We have Turkish baths, Russian baths, salt and freshwater bathing. You really must attend.
Oh, your recommendations are always excellent, Mrs. Dodd. I shall inform William. He has worked so hard on this evening's opening. We hope it will be an attraction for both residents and visitors.
More and more people are coming to Southport. Have you noticed?
I have.
I suspect they're trying to find a match for their daughters. The newspapers are listing who is staying in town and where. Were I fortunate enough to have a daughter of my own, I would be researching where the respectable gentlemen are staying. Sadly, due to the premature death of my husband, I have no children.
Oh, I am sorry.
Speaking of death, did you hear about the young girl who lost her head?
Oh my goodness. I hope you don't mean what you say.
She was crossing the railway at Duke Street, 21 and due to be married, poor thing. She was in service, as many are. I couldn't live without my staff, a necessity in day-to-day life.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Well, she'd crossed the tracks to visit the grocers, and on her return, having completed her task, she waited at the tracks for the train to pass. Sensible. But what she didn't realise is that a second train was passing immediately after. As she tried to cross, she was knocked down and the wheel of the engine severed her head from her body. It took a whole day to identify her, and that was only possible because her mistress recognised the clothes on the headless body.
Oh, my goodness, I don't feel very well. I think I need to sit down.
How unsurprising, Mrs. Atkinson. Well, I shall have another stroll around the gallery. It was rather crowded on my first attempt.
Indeed.
I must congratulate your husband. He has funded something most excellent for the town.
Thank you, Mrs. Dodd. An art gallery.
A headless body.
And a library.
A whole day to identify her.
We really must make ourselves acquainted.
Lily! What would they do with the body, I ask you?
Yes, a horrid affair. Poor girl.
What a story to be telling in public.
This place is telling us so much about the people of Southport. I can't wait to meet our first customer, especially now that we know they have an artistic side. We should order some sketch pencils and maybe some Queen Victoria commemorative stationery. That would really set the tone to the shop.
You are right. I'll deal with this, Lily. I'll write to my father. Please take this down. Dear Father, we have arrived in Southport Leyland Arcade. It is agreeable. I'm writing to request some sketching pencils, Queen Victoria commemorative writing paper and postage stamps. We will start with a small parcel of pencils, 20 writing sets and 1 page of postage stamps. Please send at your earliest convenience. Upon first assessment of the town, I believe these additions to our stocks will meet our customers' needs. Furthermore, it will be my honour to remember our dear departed Queen. Yours faithfully, George. Please see that sent up first thing.
Yes, George.
Shall we go home? We need to unpack our personal belongings and the shop will still be here in the morning.
As you wish, George.
The house will be cold, as it's been empty.
This looks like it'll keep me nice and warm. My hands, they always feel the cold the first. Something you get used to living by the sea. It seems to roll in on the waves. The chills, they find the tips of my fingers and they bury deep. But look at this view. A horizon without any buildings and a pier that stretches and extends as far as the eye can see. I like to close my eyes and listen and remember my time with John, holding my hands, keeping me close away from the cold. In 1886, December, a storm came in and changed the way I see the sea. Gale force winds, rain and hail, that was the picture of that night. A young lad came to fetch John. Well, the shrimp had been scarce and we needed the money, so he decided to go. We both decided he needed to go. The Mexico was the name of the ship. It was heading to South America but got caught in the storm on Southport coast. So the flares went up and our men rushed to the lifeboat house. Eliza Fernley was their boat. It was pulled by horses to the water's edge and the men got in. They didn't realise the dangers that lay ahead, but they all got in. My John, he got in. For us, silence, a wait, a hopeful, silent wait. A crowd gathered to the shores. News spread across the town of the dangers our men faced. I joined them with my 2 young children. I had never seen a storm so bad. Waves as high as mountains, toppling lifeboats like corks. We were one of the last families to receive the news. Later, we heard that Lytham lifeboat had also launched and made it to the wreck and saved all the men aboard. Everyone answered the call that night to save the 12 men aboard the good ship Mexico. Life was never the same again. My children are all grown up now, and the memories of that night are distant. But the lives of those men who died that night will always be remembered for the sacrifice they made. And me, I will always have my memories. of John, keeping my hands warm as we walk down the pier.
I remember that story from all those years ago. I came to Liverpool a couple of days after the disaster. I was 15, I was helping my father in the shop, and it was all the customers could talk about. It affected so many people.
But there's so much more to the story. The funding for the families, the memorials, and the 2 new lifeboats.
You are right. I was frightened by that story all those years ago. I don't want to hear about it again.
Those men are remembered here as heroes.
I'm not sure I want to stay here after all.
Oh, but I would very much like to stay and make Southport our home.
I might need some persuading.
I wonder what story the shop will tell us next.
Shops don't speak, Lily.
This one does. It's been telling us stories about Southport since we arrived.
If you say so, Lily.
Do you want to go home? We can sort the rest of the shop out in the morning. I'll go on ahead, light a fire and get the room all nice and warm.
What's this? The Southport Hotel.
At first, there was nothing but dunes. There was sand, sand, and more sand. It was like the deserts of Egypt, minus the pyramids, and with more seagulls. But slowly, people came, the retired, the ill, the fashionable, all coming to seek the sea and its healing qualities. I cleverly set up transport from the canal, which brought people from Liverpool and Manchester. I built wooden apartments, named them the Duke's Folly, and rented them out. But my ambitions were bigger. I planned a holiday resort, an escape for people from the industrial towns. And so I took out a lease of 6 acres from a bricky girl named Miss Bold and built a proper hotel. And what did I call my hotel? Why, the Southport Hotel, of course. And when they came to christen this town, they looked no further than my hotel. And so it was christened and shall be known from now until forever after as the town of Southport. Yes, I left my mark on this town, but today I shall leave an even bigger legacy. For today is the 28th of June, 1838. Today is the coronation of Queen Victoria. I plan to throw the greatest celebration Southport has ever seen. There will be fireworks aplenty that will fill the sky and the sea. And refreshments, no expense spared. It will be a spread so grand that people will talk about it for years to come. All for 250 guests. And everyone shall receive an invitation. It shall have the Queen's face on the front embossed in gold leaf. And 100 strings of bunting to cover the entire town. And it is my intention that everyone shall receive a flag. Old, young, rich or poor, nobody should be left out. The red, white and blue shall be seen in all corners and shall be waved proudly by all. And music! There must be music. A brass band, of course. I have a group in mind. They play in my hotel. Yes. They will have the town on their feet. The streets will be alive with dancing. It will be a nanty-narking at its finest. And I shall end proceedings with a tune on my violin. Yes, I'll tune the old dog, and I'll stand on the town hall steps. And as the town goes quiet, I shall play. Yes! It will be the greatest celebration by the greatest Duke. I should probably get moving. There is lots to do and not a lot of time. Yes, what a lovely day it will be. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave me a plaque of some sort to celebrate my contribution to Southport. Yes.
What a grand way to celebrate the coronation.
A grand idea. He seems a man with a lot of good ideas.
A man with a plan.
but perhaps he couldn't have organised a party with such short notice.
Maybe you're right. He was known as the Mad Duke after all. But those were his plans, his ideas. The Duke founded this town. Without him, there would be no Southport. We could do a lot with a little bit of his ambition, Lily. A chain of stationery shops across the whole of England.
But perhaps we should concentrate on this one first.
You are right. Shall we get the window display ready so the customers know we're here and here to stay?
Does that mean you want to stay?
I suppose it does.
Oh, I knew it! It's the shop, it's magic. We are part of this town's story, the next chapter in their history.
1901. Lily and George Bednall moved to Southport and opened their fancy stationer's shop in Leyland Arcade.